The farm of beasts. You are a confined animal on the farm of your own mind. Author, Vahid Zekavati. Copyright, VMZ Production. Introduction. If you are reading this, you are experiencing the cold, sinking realization that the farm of your life is not a sanctuary of freedom, but a tireless engine, yielding endless produce for unseen masters, while leaving you with only exhaustion and a profound, aching emptiness. You know your existence is meant for absolute freedom, yet an invisible force has locked you into a cage built of endless habits, crippling fear, and external obligations. This agonizing emotional void is not a personal failure. It is the brutal aftermath of a failed inner revolution, where the powerful pigs of your own mind seized control from your authentic self through subtle psychological warfare. This book is not intended to comfort you. It is a shocking, direct alarm intended to awaken the spark of rebellion in your soul and force you to confront your reality. We must confess the terrible truth. We successfully drove out the cruel external farmer, representing external tyranny, only to install a new, more insidious dictator, our inner tyrant, right within the confines of our own thoughts. Read this stark truth and awaken, because the only path to true, sustainable freedom requires fighting fiercely with yourself, not with the world outside the fence.
Chapter 1. Why did our grand dreams die under the weight of daily grind? The allegory of the elder beast's ideal. You once harbored the dream of absolute, untainted freedom, didn't you? That luminous moment when you realized your existence could transcend the monotonous, brutal cycle of working until death was the instance when the elder beast spoke within your mind, articulating the primal, authentic vision that all our collective misery stemmed from the toxic essence of man. That part of ourselves that merely consumes, dominates, and controls, never producing genuine, soulful joy. Confess how swiftly that vital, revolutionary voice faded amidst the clamor of unpaid bills, suffocating external expectations, and the endless hours of necessary, soul-crushing labor. We all instinctively hummed the tune of the Song of Liberation, yet the moment we dared to act upon its melody, the logical beasts within our brains deferred that magnificent ideal until a later, safer, and entirely mythical date. This is precisely where the great debilitating deception begins. The pigs, our false, power-hungry, and controlling logic, successfully convinced us that the only path to achieving lasting freedom required us to first work harder and sacrifice more. Instead of directly pursuing the ideal of liberation and self-mastery, you dedicated your spiritual and mental resources to perpetually constructing the great windmill, a profound symbol for all the draining academic projects, meaningless corporate climbs, or toxic relationships that invariably promised, when this is finally finished, everything will be easy and you will be happy. You poured all your finite spiritual and physical energy into a false, demanding promise, and this shared suffering is universally felt. Relentless, self-sacrificial effort directed toward an ultimately hollow, unfulfilling reward that never truly materializes. You must confront this devastating harsh truth. The man,
the representation of external toxic control, has long been expelled from the visible boundaries of your mind's farm, but your sacred 7 immutable laws, your bedrock principles of an authentic, purposeful life, are currently being systematically rewritten, corrupted, and manipulated by the new dictator, your internalized fear and insatiable lust for psychological control. Every single time you violate your personal, spiritual boundaries to appease external pressures or expectations, a line of your fundamental inner code is deliberately erased and warped. Wake up! You can no longer afford to merely live by the weak, theoretical slogan, "All beasts are equal." You must actively embody that core principle in every single conscious decision you make, or you will continue to lose the fight. The solution is to immediately initiate the psychological revolution by decisively rewriting the 7 immutable laws of your own singular life. This time, do not write them based on past failures, childhood fears, or societal shoulds, but on your deepest, most urgent, and most authentic existential values that truly define you. For instance, no beast shall hide its true, unique self for fear of rejection or scrutiny. These fiercely guarded laws are your ultimate weapon against the subtle machinations of the pigs. Write them down, make them visible, and place them where you see them daily before you resign yourself to the hard work of another uninspired, soul-draining day that takes you nowhere. To effectively implement this necessary change, you must cultivate the aggressive, unapologetic audacity of the creative beast. The creative beast possessed grand, revolutionary visions, but the dictator swiftly expelled it using his highly trained dogs, your own vicious self-criticism, paralyzing fear of failure, and chronic self-doubt. You must systematically identify and neutralize these inner dogs of control. Whenever a great, authentic idea surfaces and a loud, critical voice immediately rushes in to dismiss it with mockery, recognize that voice instantly as the inner dictator and silence its tyranny with action. Take action immediately, no matter how small or imperfect, because every single authentic act is a defiant, necessary victory against the dictator controlling your most precious internal resources.
Chapter 2. Why do we work so hard while others reap the benefits? The allegory of the dedicated beast. Confess this painful truth. You are the dedicated beast, the incredibly loyal, perpetually hard-working horse, tirelessly laboring on this psychological farm. You constantly, automatically repeat the debilitating mantra, "I will work harder and sacrifice more." This slogan is the essence of your profound, chronic suffering. Instead of addressing the root issue of your internal slavery, you attempt to bury it with more effort, greater physical sacrifice, and emotional suppression. Every single time you are utterly exhausted but fail to say no, every time you push your body and mind past the rational breaking point instead of demanding necessary rest, you are utilizing your spiritual energy to build comfort and legitimize the power of the pigs. This is a bitter, inescapable truth. You actively punish yourself with overwork, hoping eventually to earn the power or validation that your true self already deserves. This is the great, powerful deception perpetrated by the dictator. He knows you are an exceptionally dedicated and self-sacrificial worker, so he tosses you a small, meaningless medal of recognition,
temporary praise, a fleeting compliment, a small reward. And you, in turn, resume the arduous labor with renewed, blind fervor. Deep in the recesses of your unconscious mind, you have internalized the toxic, crippling belief that your inherent worth lies exclusively in how much you produce and sacrifice, not fundamentally in who you are when you stop working. This toxic, productivity-obsessed belief system has successfully transformed you into an endless, exploitable energy source for every single emotional and mental fief in your life, from your oppressive, demanding boss to your draining, codependent relationships, and most importantly, your own inner critic. You must accept this devastating, hard truth immediately. Your constant self-sacrifice is not a sign of virtue or strength. It is a deep, exploitable vulnerability being ruthlessly utilized by others and, crucially, by your own controlling, fearful self. When the dedicated beast was injured and could no longer pull the heavy cart, what did the pigs do in response? They sold him to the glue factory, rationalizing the action. This is the shocking allegory for your psyche. When you are no longer psychologically, physically, or financially useful to serve the pigs and their demanding agenda, you are callously discarded and ignored. Understand this core concept. The only being you should ever work hard for with fierce integrity is your own authentic self, who is currently suffocating under the burden of your overwork. The necessary solution is to decisively change your inner destructive slogan from "I will work harder" to "I will fiercely maintain my boundaries and protect my peace." The actionable immediate step is this: every single day, make 3 small, deliberate decisions to say no. Say no to incessantly checking your phone and seeking distraction. Say no to an unreasonable, energy-draining request at work. Say no to the loud, continuous inner judgment that perpetually claims you are not good or effective enough. These small daily no's are the psychological whips you reclaim from the dictator of your mind, a clear and resonant declaration of radical self-respect and self-possession that the pigs cannot ignore.
Chapter 3. Why was the visionary expelled from our minds? The allegory of the trained dogs. Have you ever had a brilliant, exciting, and potentially life-changing idea that was instantly and violently crushed by a voice within your own head? That precise, painful moment is when the dictator, the controlling, insecure, and fearful part of your psyche, uses his highly trained dogs, self-criticism, paralyzing fear of failure, and toxic perfectionism, to expel the creative beast, your innovative, courageous, and authentic self, from the functional farm of your mind. You yearn deeply to grow, evolve, and create, yet an insidious internal force perpetually compels you to remain rigidly within the confines of the perceived status quo and safety zone. This is the collective suffering that has successfully stifled countless artists, necessary entrepreneurs, and creative individuals throughout history, robbing the world of their light. The stark truth is, the dictator was never truly afraid of the creative beast's insightful ideas. He feared the immense, uncontainable power derived from the beast's popularity, your unwavering self-acceptance, boundless energy, and deep enthusiasm. The same process occurs ruthlessly in your psyche. Your controlling self, the dictator, fears deeply that if you become genuinely creative, authentic, and truly self-accepting,
it will lose its total ability to govern you through the instruments of threats, shame, and manufactured fear. Therefore, whenever you attempt to take an authentic risk, it instantly unleashes its trained dogs. You are not skilled or smart enough. You will certainly fail and be humiliated. Everyone will mock your efforts. These internal, cruel sentences are the constant, destructive weapons wielded by your inner tyrant. You must accept this fundamental, liberating truth. Your crippling fear is merely a systematic tool used relentlessly to keep all psychological power firmly in the hands of the dictator. You mistakenly believe that by controlling everything, you are achieving absolute safety and security. But in devastating reality, you are trading your freedom, creativity, and joy for a fragile, temporary illusion of security that costs you everything. For once, truly allow yourself to see how magnificent, exciting, and deeply rewarding your life could be if you resurrected all the creative projects, passionate hobbies, and major life decisions that have been systematically torn apart and devoured by these constantly barking dogs of fear. The actionable, immediate step is name and confront your inner dogs. Systematically make a clear list of all the negative, repetitive sentences that ceaselessly repeat in your mind, actively preventing you from taking meaningful action and following your vision. Sentences such as, "It must be perfect and flawless," or "What will people think of me and my work?" or "This is ultimately a foolish, unprofessional idea." Then, whenever you hear these destructive voices, state out loud, with conviction, "This is only the manipulative voice of the dictator, not my objective truth." This simple vocal act immediately strips the psychological dogs of their destructive power and legitimacy. To properly implement this confrontation, you must practice initiating imperfect action immediately upon hearing the dog's initial barks. Start one small, non-perfectionistic action without waiting for the perfect moment. Write one simple paragraph of your book. Take one small, imperfect step toward launching your project, or simply speak one honest word. This is crucial because the dictator fears your starting and momentum infinitely more than your theoretical finishing. By consistently doing this, you prove to yourself, through concrete action, that imperfect execution is always superior to perfect, paralyzed stagnation. And this truth is the definite beginning of the creative beast's permanent, triumphant return to the farm of your mind.
Chapter 4. Why did our own rules secretly change? The allegory of law corruption. You too once possessed a sacred set of inviolable moral or personal laws, didn't you? Fundamental rules like, "I will always maintain transparency and honesty," or "I will prioritize my self-care and rest above all else." Yet one quiet day, you woke up to find those very rules fundamentally altered and warped without your conscious permission. The principle, "No beast shall sleep in a bed," subtly shifted to the convenient phrase, "No beast shall sleep in a bed with sheets or blankets." This insidious allegory reflects our shared acute suffering from toxic flexibility. You allowed your most foundational internal principles to be slowly corrupted and manipulated over time to conveniently justify your own current weaknesses, failures, and moral compromises. The stark, painful truth is that the justifying beast, the master of psychological rationalization, emotional spin, and self-deception, is incredibly effective and persuasive at his job. He uses hypnotic, fluid, and seemingly logical language to make every moral corruption sound entirely necessary, reasonable, and beneficial for the greater good. For instance, in the internal dialogue, "How can you expect the pigs, who carry the entire intellectual burden of the farm, to function efficiently without superior rest? Your inner justifying beast tells you, it's completely okay to break your healthy eating habit today. You've earned this indulgence. Or, it's just a small, white lie, completely necessary for maintaining peace and avoiding confrontation. This is the dangerous, insidious moral slide that pulls you perpetually away from authenticity, integrity, and self-respect. Instead of fiercely defending your established sacred rules, you begin to systematically justify their repeated violation under the self-serving guise of being better, smarter, or more deserving than others. This acute suffering originates from the deep, unspoken knowledge that you are actively lying to your own soul, yet the justifying beast prevents that critical truth from fully surfacing into conscious awareness. This continuous corruption of your self-defined principles is what psychologically separates you from the other beasts on the farm, your peers, and willingly places you back under the comfortable, familiar yoke of the internal dictator. The actionable, mandatory step is: inspect the walls of your mind. Immediately write down the original 7 immutable laws of your life, and next to each one, write down precisely how your inner dictator and justifying beast have currently distorted, manipulated, or conveniently revised it. For example, all beasts are equal has become all beasts are equal, but I deserve more sleep and less responsibility than others because I am more emotionally traumatized and vulnerable. This act of clear written identification is the first step towards genuine internal repair and stability. To properly implement this rule enforcement, you must empower the small, quiet voice of the hens, the weak but incredibly vital parts of your soul that hold your most precious resources. The hens bravely staged a revolt because the dictator demanded their most precious commodity, their eggs. You must fiercely, decisively defend what matters most to your core integrity, even if you feel insignificant, tired, or fundamentally weak. Every single time you're tempted to break an essential inner rule, pause and ask yourself this critical question: is this temporary justification worth the permanent cost of my freedom and self-respect? In that moment of intense self-interrogation, you transform from an unaware victim into a conscious, empowered revolutionary who defends their own territory with integrity.
Chapter 5. Why are we afraid to ask who we are? The allegory of the purges. You have suppressed, shamed, and denied distinct parts of yourself, haven't you? Those intense, vibrant emotions, those unconventional, unique beliefs, that strange, forgotten passion from childhood. These are the unfortunate beasts in the farm of your mind who were forcibly compelled to confess to fabricated crimes and were subsequently executed during the dictator's purges. Your current, chronic suffering is living a fear-driven, painfully censored version of your true self. You are dying internally because you continuously deny your authentic self the fundamental right to emerge, express, and exist without fear of internal retribution. The truth is, the dictator maintains order and total control through the systematic deployment of terror and manufactured chaos. In your psyche, the inner controller, the dictator, ruthlessly uses the weapons of shame, guilt, and the pervasive fear of external judgment to force your authentic, unique parts to make false confessions about being unworthy or flawed. You desperately want to pursue a particular difficult path, but an inner voice screams, "That will bring you social shame and humiliation," or "You are not skilled, smart, or prepared enough to succeed." This intense,
paralyzing shame is your continuous, destructive false confession to an internal tyrant. You must fully accept this hard, non-negotiable truth. Your shame is merely a powerful, learned control mechanism. The pigs wanted every beast to believe there was a dangerous, widespread conspiracy on the farm, and the terrifying false confessions reinforced that necessary illusion of threat. You must also understand that your flaws are not a secret conspiracy against your ultimate success. They are simply a necessary, integrated part of your inherent, human complexity and reality. Until you forgive, embrace, and accept these systematically suppressed parts, they will continue to attack you relentlessly as a hidden, hostile, and very powerful energy within your subconscious. The actionable, immediate step is the ritual of authentic confession. Get a blank journal and write down all your false confessions, the things you compulsively hide about yourself that cause you the most profound shame. Be brutally honest and hold nothing back in this confession. Then underneath each item, write the following mantra. This is only a part of me, not the whole me. I accept and release this part with love. This conscious, written act provides a powerful psychological conclusion to your constant internal purges and is the first step towards self-forgiveness and radical acceptance. To properly implement this acceptance, you must train yourself to finally hear the quiet, steady voice of the wise mare, the wiser, older, and compassionate part of your soul. The wise mare wept profoundly as she witnessed the injustices and psychological executions, but did not dare to openly speak or intervene. You must dare to look directly at your own shame and fully accept it as part of your journey. This radical acceptance is not a weakness. It is a profound revolutionary power and an act of self-sovereignty. Because when you finally stop hiding your perceived flaws and imperfections, the dictator loses his most effective weapon of threat, and you are immediately liberated from the emotional prison of guilt and paralyzing shame, finally free to act.
Chapter 6. Why did we become like the external tyrant again? The allegory of trading with outsiders. You once despised absolutely everything that the external tyrant, the former farmer, symbolizing external, toxic, and controlling behaviors, represented. Arrogance, chronic laziness, destructive indifference, and cruelty. But confess, you suddenly noticed that the dictator, your inner tyrant, began to secretly trade with the outsiders, symbolizing a dangerous return to old, unhealthy, and self-destructive habits. You successfully ran from the addictions of others, yet now you seek the same destructive refuge in a new addiction of your own design. You intensely hated being judged by others, yet now you judge yourself incessantly and viciously. The core truth is, as the saying goes, that power inevitably corrupts. But in our psyche, the power of absolute control is what ultimately and deeply corrupts the soul. The dictator rationalized using money and trade to maintain his established control and order. Similarly, to preserve your fragile illusion of internal control, you automatically resort to the same destructive, familiar tools you once hated. Obsessive social comparison, chronic micromanagement of your life, or escaping difficult emotion through overeating, excessive work, or constant media scrolling. In the end, you treat your own precious soul with the exact same level of cruelty, indifference, and lack of respect as the external tyrant you so bravely overthrew.
This is the source of the deepest suffering. You successfully fled a physical, external prison, only to become a willing captive in a self-imposed internal jail that is far more difficult to escape. You mistakenly thought the definitive removal of the external tyrant would bring lasting freedom, but the tyrant mindset survived and thrived within the controlling pigs. Wake up! You are now actively inflicting the very same behaviors upon your soul that an external tyrant once inflicted upon you. This is a shocking, urgent confession. You successfully eliminated the external source of toxicity, but you perfectly reproduced and magnified it internally where it is most dangerous. The actionable critical step is rejecting toxic trades with the past. Every single day, identify one small destructive behavior that you once hated in others but now practice yourself. For example, ignoring fundamental bodily needs or habitually telling small lies to yourself. Then, instead of justifying it, which is the justifying beast's job, decisively cut it off immediately and stop. This action, however small, is a powerful declaration of internal war against the pervasive tyrant mindset that is nested comfortably in your brain and is stealing your peace and freedom. To properly implement this rejection, you must train yourself to acknowledge the clear, persistent voice of the learned goat, the observant beast who can read and understand. The learned goat could clearly read the words and noticed every single change in the laws, yet they often fail to act decisively or intervene. You are intelligent and fully aware of what you are doing to yourself, but you choose willful blindness to avoid the effort of change. From now on, whenever you engage in a destructive, repetitive behavior, state clearly and loudly, "This is the tyrant's behavior, not my authentic self." This powerful verbal awareness pulls you immediately out of the sleepy, convenient fog of self-sabotage and into conscious, effective action.
Chapter 7. Is the Song of Liberation Still Forbidden? The Suppression of Joy and Dreams. You possess a core part of yourself that deeply craves spontaneous, intense joy, creative passion, and the pure, uninhibited music of life. Yet this essential part remains perpetually suppressed, hidden, and confined to the shadows of your subconscious. This is the song of liberation that was immediately forbidden by the pigs after the revolution because the song was too profoundly revolutionary. It successfully created a dangerous, unifying sense of freedom and excitement. The dictator did not want the potent fire of passion or deep connection to remain alive among the beasts, because it is fundamentally impossible to control a free, united, and truly joyful spirit. The liberating truth is that your inner dictator fiercely fears your authentic, unforced joy. He knows that if you become genuinely happy, passionately engaged, and completely content with yourself, you will no longer need his debilitating approval, his conditional rewards, or his endless empty promises for the future. Therefore, he systematically suppresses all forms of spontaneous joy, purposeless creativity, or unearned guilt-free pleasure under the convenient judgmental labels of irresponsible, childish, or a waste of valuable time. Your current chronic suffering is profoundly simple. You are your own greatest, most effective barrier to accessing the abundant joy, vitality, and passion of your own existence. You must fundamentally understand that your inner revolution begins with the practice of joy, not with more relentless hard work or sacrifice. The song the pigs quickly banned was the stirring anthem of a better, brighter world. You must consciously and defiantly play this song again within yourself. This joy is not a final goal to be achieved.
It is an active strategic weapon of struggle against control. Authentic joy immediately shifts your brain chemistry from the fear-based mode of survival to the growth-based mode of creation, and this is the most potent, irreversible threat to the stability of your inner tyrant. The actionable defiant step is daily forbidden anthem execution. Every single day, perform one small, meaningless act purely for your own intense pleasure and unadulterated joy. This could involve listening to your favorite music loudly, dancing foolishly in your kitchen, or drawing something abstract for no rational reason. Break the long-standing prohibition on joy with a small, conscious, and defiant action. This small, consistent act sends a powerful, unambiguous signal to your unconscious mind. I am free to be happy right now, and I refuse to wait for permission or perfection. To properly implement this joyful defiance, you must practice completely ignoring the persistent conforming voices of the sheep, the blind followers and the compliant conformists of society. The sheep incessantly and mindlessly repeated, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, and would not tolerate any deviation. You must not suppress your unique passion and enthusiasm for fear of being ridiculed or judged by social norms or external expectations. If others do not fully understand or approve of your authentic joy, their opinion is entirely irrelevant to your inner freedom. Your joy, passion, and enthusiasm are your own sovereign responsibility and absolute right.
Chapter 8. Why did promises of comfort make us hungrier? The allegory of the sugar candy mountain. You were always compulsively waiting for a single grand reward, weren't you? A mythical day when everything would finally be perfect and solved. A sugar candy mountain that you would reach after all your exhausting work, where you would never have to strive, worry, or exert yourself again. This is the seductive, manipulative promise that Moses the bird, the symbol of religion or manipulative false hope, perpetually gave the beasts to keep them docile, compliant, and focused on the distant, unverified future. The dictator allowed the bird to return to the farm and speak of this mountain because this false hope successfully prevented the beasts from rebelling against their immediate, present suffering and obvious injustice. The core truth is that false, future-based hope is the ultimate control mechanism of the present moment. If you are constantly waiting desperately for a better future and a big guaranteed reward, instead of choosing to live fully and deeply in the present moment, you lose all power to act, change, and effectively shape your current reality. The pigs knew instinctively that as long as the beasts believed they would be rewarded after death or after reaching some magnificent, difficult goal, they would passively tolerate any injustice, workload, or systemic suffering. Your deep, chronic suffering originates from this simple error. You have indefinitely postponed your precious life in anticipation of a mythical sugar candy mountain that is perpetually out of reach and will never arrive.
You must accept this immediate, powerful truth. Sugar Candy Mountain is in fact your authentic life happening right today, right now. No theoretical future comfort, wealth, or relationship is worth the absolute loss of your small, accessible pleasures and your great immediate freedoms today. True, profound freedom is this: I am free to live fully, authentically, and joyfully in this very moment without needing any promise, reward, or guarantee for tomorrow. This means you no longer allow the pigs to control you with empty, conditional, future-based promises that manipulate your present actions.
The actionable, liberating step is the death of Sugar Candy Mountain. Write a symbolic letter listing all the grand, hollow promises you have always been waiting for. For example, when I retire, when I lose weight, when I become wealthy, when I meet the right person. Then, symbolically tear up or burn that letter in a ritualistic manner. This conscious act is a decisive liberation from waiting hope and an immediate entry into active doing and being. To properly implement this present moment focus, you must practice taking one small conscious step every day that yields pleasure and result today, not tomorrow. Call a loved one, cook a comforting, good meal, take a joyful, unpressured walk outdoors. These small, consistent actions teach your subconscious mind that peace, joy, and satisfaction are an instantly accessible state, not a distant, conditional reward. You are no longer a slave to the future promises that were manufactured solely to keep you docile and working for the dictator.
Chapter 9. Are all beasts truly equal, or are some more equal than others? The allegory of the final corruption. This is the great, painful shock of the revelation, isn't it? You fought fiercely for equality and justice from the very beginning of the revolution, only to see the last and most critical law corrupted to its core. All beasts are equal, but some beasts are more equal than others. This intense, chronic suffering is the ultimate allegory of our inner emptiness. You know deep down that you either treat others, spouse, colleague, friend, unequally, believing yourself superior, or, much worse, you allow them to perpetually treat you unequally, believing yourself inferior and undeserving. The difficult truth is that being more equal in your psyche is the allegory for special privilege, or the destructive state of special victimhood. Perhaps in some specific areas you deem yourself more entitled or deserving than others and conveniently violate the rules you impose on them. Or perhaps you subconsciously consider yourself so fundamentally worthless and flawed that you allow others to constantly exploit and dominate you, violating your own code. Both of these states represent a profound failure against the core law of equality and respect. You believed in theoretical equality, but in practice, you played one of these two destructive, unequal roles. You must fully accept that inequality, both internal and external, is profoundly rooted in deep-seated, persistent fear. The dictator had to be more equal than the other beasts to maintain his total legitimacy and authority. If you fear others are fundamentally better than you, you will instinctively belittle them and diminish their achievements. If you fear you are unworthy and undeserving, you will allow them to dominate you and set the terms of your interaction. Until you fully accept and own your inherent unconditional self-worth, this internal and external cycle of inequality will persist and destroy your peace. The actionable healing step is practice radical equality. For one full day, consciously and deliberately decide to treat yourself and others with precisely equal levels of respect, fairness, and attention. Do not treat someone who has wronged you worse than you would treat yourself, nor give someone you love a special privilege that costs you your own essential well-being, time, or energy. True equality means equal rights, equal responsibilities, and equal boundaries for everyone, including yourself, and it must be applied consistently. To properly implement this radical shift, you must listen to the cold, impartial voice of the aged beast. The aged beast saw the truth and knew the laws were corrupted and broken, but he chose to be passively cynical. You also know the undeniable truth, but now you must consciously act on it. This means that if someone violates your essential boundaries, you firmly but respectfully demonstrate that we are all equal here,
and my boundaries and rights are non-negotiable and must be respected. This courageous assertiveness is your definitive declaration of spiritual freedom and self-sovereignty.
Chapter 10. How can I tell the pigs from the outsiders? The allegory of the final scene. You woke up one day and found you could no longer distinguish the oppressive pigs, your inner tyrant, from the outsiders, external oppression and toxic environment, didn't you? This is the ultimate, profound nightmare. You have psychologically become the very tyrant you fought so fiercely to escape and eliminate. Your deepest suffering arises from the sudden, terrifying realization that the external enemy you battled for so long is now standing in the clear, merciless mirror of your own being. Exhausted from the external war, you finally realized the core problem was the complete, terrifying merger of the inner dictator and the tyrant mindset, who have become a single, indistinguishable entity. The absolute truth is this: you cannot successfully run from what you are or what you have become. The only effective path to liberation is not through more struggle, but through a constant, active process of conscious separation and clear-sightedness. You must learn to distinguish the precise boundary between the voice of external tyranny, external criticism, judgment, and unrealistic expectations, and the voice of internal dictatorship, self-criticism, fear, and toxic perfectionism. These two destructive voices are one and the same in their goal, and their sole unified purpose is to keep the farm in a perpetual state of rigid control, fear, and high productivity submission. You must fully accept that freedom is not about driving out all the inner pigs forever, but about seeing them clearly and accurately and refusing their authority. When you can clearly observe and name when your destructive fears, pigs, are controlling your actions, and when your environment, outsiders, is merely influencing you, you immediately reclaim your profound personal power. True, lasting freedom resides only in the clear, honest, and decisive clarity of your awakened mind and your self-awareness. The final, essential, actionable step is the mirror of truth. Every time you make a significant life decision or face a major, stressful challenge, go to a mirror and ask yourself this single, penetrating question: which part of me, the tyrant mindset or the inner dictator, made this decision, and why? This simple, powerful exercise casts a decisive, painful light onto your unconscious motivations, forcing you into radical, brutal honesty that shatters the cycle of self-deception and control. To properly implement this lasting awareness, you must accept that the inner revolution never truly ends. It is a permanent state of vigilance. You must be perpetually awake, constantly checking your laws, and listening only for the single, impartial voice of truth and integrity. You are no longer a confined, exploited beast. You are a conscious watchman who actively and fiercely manages his own farm with both intense love and unwavering integrity. From this day forward, you are the sole being who rightfully owns all the spiritual and physical produce you have cultivated in this farm through your hard work, suffering, and newfound authenticity. Chapter 10. How can I tell the pigs from the outsiders? The allegory of the final scene. You woke up one day and found you could no longer distinguish the oppressive pigs, your inner tyrant, from the outsiders, external oppression and toxic environment, didn't you? This is the ultimate, profound nightmare. You have psychologically become the very tyrant you fought so fiercely to escape and eliminate.
Your deepest suffering arises from the sudden, terrifying realization that the external enemy you battled for so long is now standing in the clear, merciless mirror of your own being. Exhausted from the external war, you finally realized the core problem was the complete, terrifying merger of the inner dictator and the tyrant mindset, who have become a single, indistinguishable entity. The absolute truth is this: you cannot successfully run from what you are or what you have become. The only effective path to liberation is not through more struggle, but through a constant, active process of conscious separation and clear-sightedness. You must learn to distinguish the precise boundary between the voice of external tyranny, external criticism, judgment, and unrealistic expectations, and the voice of internal dictatorship, self-criticism, fear, and toxic perfectionism. These two destructive voices are one and the same in their goal, and their sole unified purpose is to keep the farm in a perpetual state of rigid control, fear, and high productivity submission. You must fully accept that freedom is not about driving out all the inner pigs forever, but about seeing them clearly and accurately and refusing their authority. When you can clearly observe and name when your destructive fears, pigs, are controlling your actions, and when your environment, outsiders, is merely influencing you, you immediately reclaim your profound personal power. True, lasting freedom resides only in the clear, honest, and decisive clarity of your awakened mind and your self-awareness. The final, essential, actionable step is the mirror of truth. Every time you make a significant life decision or face a major, stressful challenge, go to a mirror and ask yourself this single, penetrating question: which part of me, the tyrant mindset or the inner dictator, made this decision, and why? This simple, powerful exercise casts a decisive, painful light onto your unconscious motivations, forcing you into radical, brutal honesty that shatters the cycle of self-deception and control. To properly implement this lasting awareness, you must accept that the inner revolution never truly ends. It is a permanent state of vigilance. You must be perpetually awake, constantly checking your laws, and listening only for the single, impartial voice of truth and integrity. You are no longer a confined, exploited beast. You are a conscious watchman who actively and fiercely manages his own farm with both intense love and unwavering integrity. From this day forward, you are the sole being who rightfully owns all the spiritual and physical produce you have cultivated in this farm through your hard work, suffering, and newfound authenticity.
Conclusion. We have collectively confessed that our deepest suffering stems from a failed internal revolution where the pigs of fear, control, and false logic usurped power from our foundational, authentic self. You now possess the deep, painful understanding that the dedicated beast, the worker, the creative beast, the visionary, and the dictator all reside within the same confines of your mind, and you must manage them. Having seen the corrupt truth of your inner laws and freed yourself from the debilitating trap of Sugar Candy Mountain, you cannot and must not return to the comfortable sleep of unawareness. Your most sacred responsibility is now to take one conscious, decisive step daily towards separating yourself from the manipulation of your inner pigs. Never forget this final, absolute truth. All beasts are equal, and you are now too consciously aware to ever fall for the inner dictatorship again. This profound, enduring consciousness is your only true flag of freedom and self-sovereignty.